Welcome to my Shitty podcast. So shitty it only has one T. I'm your host, Adam Copeland. Thanks for listening, thanks for subscribing, and most importantly, thanks for telling a friend. I also want to thank my guest Brian for coming on and telling us about what he does artistically and how he's paid his bills. We get to take a peek in the blinds of his life. And also, if you haven't checked out his show or checked out our episode, go do that. I've got links to his Instagram that also has links to his podcast on the show notes, so you can click on those and navigate easily. Yeah, that's all I've got. So without further ado, let's let the cat out of the bag. All right. We can get started when you're ready.
Cool. Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Why don't we just start with just like introduce yourself and tell us what you do for a living.
Okay. My name's Brian Brett. I host a podcast in Santa Fe called Artists with Brian. I run a content marketing business called howtoplaypoker.video. And I'm applying to grad school. I'm trying to go to New Mexico State University to get a master's in agricultural economics so I can continue to be an artist for the rest of my life without worrying about money. So I've been screenwriting for 5 years. Trying to crack the Hollywood industry. Yeah, man. But I haven't been able to. So I'm switching gears. I'm going to probably make like lower budget indie features in New Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that you were a little, that you were delving into like the screenwriting realm, if you will. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Cool.
That's your passion. That's what you'd like to do.
Absolutely. Like storytelling is my art form.
Yeah.
I like oral art forms, so stand up and hip hop.
Cool.
Poetry are really big to me. Yeah. And I mean, screenwriting is weird because it is an oral art form, but as the writer, you're writing it down, but then it becomes action and dialogue on a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we get into anything else, I wanted to talk about, you had me on your podcast.
Oh, yeah. So, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Episode is out right now.
That's right.
Everywhere you hear your podcast.
That's right, man. That's right. And I'll even feature it on my Shitty podcast, so you can check it out. And then I'm hopeful that my listeners will go support you. So please go do that. Please go support a local starving artist. Yeah. How do you pay your bills right now while pursuing your like passion?
Howtoplaypoker.video. So it's over 10 hours of instruction, videos that I recorded. If you've ever seen Khan Academy, it's like whiteboard instructional videos, little math, logic, probability.
Yeah.
So I used to sell those. The videos themselves were paywalled, but now they're all on YouTube, which is working out good. I got like 1.2 million views. It's better to make those free and then use that content as lead generation for like poker site signups, for private lessons with affiliates, like coaching sessions.
Yeah, man. Just bringing poker and like film and all into context. Have you ever seen Rounders, the movie Rounders?
Yeah, one of my favorites with Matt Damon. Yeah. That movie is credited with launching the poker boom in combination with this amateur that won the World Series of Poker main event, Chris Moneymaker. Those two things must have happened the same year, maybe like 2005.
Yeah, right on. You've got a little bit of a service industry background as well?
Yeah. So I went broke like at age 29, 30. I was like a couple years into writing and I didn't want to stop. So I got a job at the restaurant my neighbor was managing. Cool. As a food runner and busboy. Yeah. Just so I didn't have to stop writing. And 4 years later, I was a bartender. Nice. Yeah, and COVID happened. Yeah.
I used to love food running. It was like my favorite thing.
Yeah, I actually liked it. They call it floating at 2nd Street Brewery, which is where I worked. I liked it more than any other job in the building.
Yeah. It's nice.
It's exercise.
It is exercise.
Miles and miles a day.
I looked at myself in the mirror one day, not to like, oh, I got so jacked, but on the right side where I held the tray all the time, it was right-handed, the entire right side of my body, it was like Two-Face. Like
one, oh, really?
I had done it for so long that I had started to build like muscle structure from carrying, I don't know, 9 plates plus a heavy tray. like throughout the restaurant for, I don't know, 6 to 8 hours sometimes.
Wow. I was lucky. I didn't have to do it much that was lopsided.
Yeah.
Occasionally big tops.
Yeah.
Yeah, with like 8 plates on a tray.
Yeah.
I was trying to build muscle like symmetrically. I was very conscious of this.
Good,
like
man.
you work for such little money.
Yes.
The silver lining was like, okay, 40-pound bus bin, here we go. 60-pound water tank, here we go.
Yeah, that's right.
I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of the savior whenever you're the food runner. You run out and like you.
Well, you're getting everybody ranch.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I get a little bit of this? Like, sure. That's all I'm doing is grabbing stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's happy to see you. Oh yeah, here it comes.
Yeah,
I'm
no, it's like
starving.
all the stuff that technically costs 25, 75 cents, but if you're the food runner, everyone, all the chefs, all the cooks know you better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So you're the one that they'll pull favors for. Yeah. So it works out.
That's right. Let's delve back into writing a little bit. Tell me about your, not writing structure. Tell me about your writing schedule. Like when do you have time for that?
Yeah, so I'm on hiatus right now, but when I've been writing over the last 5 years, I'll write 2 features a year, pretty much. So it'll take me anywhere from like 3 to 6 months front to back from like idea to finished first draft that I'm sending out. And I'll take breaks. But the only schedule I really have is when I'm producing a rough draft, and I'll wake up around 7, drink coffee, and I'll go right to it.
Yeah.
And I'll write anywhere from like 3 to 6 hours.
Wow.
That's the most common. 6 if it's a longer scene, or if I realize all my notes I've made throughout the outlining process aren't sufficient. It might be like a higher end day, like 6 hours. Occasionally I've like broken through to like 8 to 13 hours, but it's bad.
Yeah.
It means you're gonna have to rewrite more. So sweet spot's really 6. So I'll just do that. What is that? That takes you to like 1. If I'm eating in between, it takes me to 3.
Yeah.
So that's it. And then you just keep going. I'll write like 5 days a week. I'll try to.
That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And some weeks I'm taking off more. I might have to break more story. I get like halfway through Act 2, I realize I have a hole in Act 3, or I can't like a logic inconsistency. Like that character can't deliver that line to turn that part of the plot.
Yeah.
So I call that re-breaking story.
Cool, man.
Yeah, and that can slow you down. Take like a whole week off in the middle of a rough draft sometimes.
Have you ever heard Jerry Seinfeld's like his discipline for writing, where he'll show up to write. Like he'll show up every single day. I think it's an hour, maybe it's 2 hours or something, but that's it. Like he's clocking in to write, and sometimes he'll just sit in front of a blank piece of paper and he'll write nothing.
Interesting.
But he showed up that day. And on his calendar, he has red X's, or maybe the red dots.
So I do the red X's for
Cool.
sure. And I even like post that occasionally to Instagram when I'm feeling proud.
That's good, man.
Brian, the screenwriter, that's my screenwriting account.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm like, when I'm in a rough draft, I don't get blocked. So I don't really believe in this whole like exercise the muscle thing. I don't start a rough draft unless I know like the name and the purpose of all 40 scenes or all 36 scenes or how many I've plotted out. And yeah, it's very much, I feel like the day that I'm actually writing is like a live performance. Like I have every instrument that I need that day. It's all been accumulated leading up to that day, and then it's execution.
Yeah.
And it's what kind of vitality can you bring to the dialogue and all these micro beats that happen in the scenes on the day of.
Do you have like a particular genre that you like to stay behind?
Like crime thriller.
Yeah.
It's my favorite type of movie to watch, favorite type to write. I've tried dark comedy crime thriller. I've tried like indie family crime dramedy. I've tried psychological thriller. I tried more like my 5th script. It's like a vacation home rental thriller, like a cage thriller.
Cool.
That bends toward horror. So I haven't written any horror, but I bring that script up because like I tried it out kind of more like a slasher, blood and guts.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's great. Tell me if this resonates with you. I took Neil Gaiman's masterclass in writing. He's an author, but he's also co-wrote like a lot of short stories, and anyways, within that class, he talks about it's as a writer, it's good to take like Hansel and Gretel, for instance, and because everything's pretty much written already, right? Like
Everything's a remix.
yeah, everything's a
Yeah.
remix, and he was like, just take that and rewrite it as like a I don't know, as ants or cephalopods. Is that what ants are? Six-legged.
I don't know, but they can carry like 1,000 times their weight,
Yeah.
whatever that's called. Amazing.
strong insects. But yeah, take Hansel and Gretel and make that like into a story about like ants or something, or I don't know, a college student that sort of loses his way. I don't know.
Yeah, something old, something new. I've also heard like old thread, new yarn.
Oh, tell me a little bit about that.
Like you have the substrate of your story has to be ancient and timeless and universal, and then you're weaving a story that feels of the moment, of the zeitgeist. At least that's how I see the movie industry.
Yeah.
It has to be very of the moment,
Right.
but it can't just be topical and superficial. It's
Yeah.
got to be both. So old thread, new cloth.
How do you feel about the movies that are coming out nowadays? Like, is there anything that's
I appreciate the Marvel universe because it's just mythology.
right?
So it's actually gratifying or nice to see. I don't understand why to make mythological movies the budget has to be $200 million.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's got to be superheroes, but that's just how it is right now.
Right. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of, I don't know, like, I feel like we really hit a wall as a society whenever the movie Battleship came out. We started making like board game movies. I was like,
Yeah.
what? Where are we going?
They say like the heyday of the like $40 million drama was the 90s. And I think it's because it's like if you made a decent movie, it was guaranteed to sell 1 million tickets. That's $10 million box office. So you could like make a $40 million movie that opened for like $10 million. And then, over the course of the DVD rental market or VHS rental market, it would recoup and probably like make double its money. But that all the agents and managers and producers in Hollywood love to talk about how like you can make a movie for less than 20 million or over 100
Yeah.
or over 80, whatever numbers you pick. But with the internet and YouTube, it's wildly different. Like I'm actually kind of sitting back and observing, trying to figure out what the next long form narrative cinematic experience is going to be. I think it's YouTube. I think it's somewhere where it's transparent how many people have seen it and how they're reacting to it. So that's YouTube right now. And it's definitely shorter.
Right.
It's not an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because you're not driving to a building. You don't need to like compensate for the fixed costs of commuting. And I think audiences are younger, and there's a lot like TikTok. There's stuff at the far end that's competing. So I feel like a feature film is going to be 60 minutes and online, direct to online.
Yeah, it's funny you go back and watch like an old movie. That was the old movie format. Like you got to maybe just under an hour, and that was like the featured film.
Oh, really? You're giving me some history? Like if you go back to the 50s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like that at least. Like I'm sure you've got more insight than I do on the subject.
So I guess they
matter.
got longer and longer maybe to sell more snacks for the exhibitor. Yeah, it's like weird. How did we come across 2 hours? Like I used to think that's how long a story can maintain your attention. But that's not true anymore. Not for me. It's very difficult for me to watch a movie.
Yeah.
But the ones I love, I'll rewatch and rewatch.
It's funny, man. We live in this world of distractions now. Like there's alarms on your phone, and you brought up TikTok. It's like 60 seconds. I think they just recently extended it to 3 minutes or something.
Yeah.
The Instagram stories that are X amount, I think maybe 30 seconds or a little over that. Yeah, it seems like our attention span is not there.
Yeah, I think I've heard, I agree. I heard someone say the 2 hour movie going experience was based around how long the average person could hold their piss.
Really?
Yeah, right? That sounds right.
Yeah.
And if you're at home, I don't even know. You're just pausing. So that's another thing. I think the 60-hour feature film is going to get chopped up into like less than 10-minute segments.
Yeah.
Because the person's pausing and leaving anyways. The way to maintain their attention is not to drop them into an hour-long video file. It's to like make cliffhangers inside a 3-act movie.
Right.
At the end of every 8-minute episode, but it's not even an episode. Yeah, it's very complicated. Like you can't predict the future, but I'm just watching very carefully, and I want to participate.
Right.
I don't want to go to Hollywood and make movies. I want to do it out here in the wild blue yonder.
I think that's the new norm, man. I think if you're not in the Marvel Universe realm right now, some of the best movies that I've seen have been like independent foreign movies like that. That genre seems to like, oh, okay, this is an original story, and I run into that often. Like whenever I go see a movie, I'm like, this is Ninja Turtles again. Like this is Ninja Turtles times 2. Like there's so many great like short stories or novels out there that turn that into a movie. There's a million books that are just like fascinating, and every time I'm fortunate enough to get my hands on a book, I'm like, they should make a movie out of this. This is great, which I think happens often. But
yeah, Hollywood is troubled because their cost structure to make a movie is so high. I mean, it inflated in a period of time when like the rental market was so juicy.
Yeah.
Like it costs like what, $10 or $20 million to get a star in your movie these days. There's the unions. I mean, I don't know much about it, but on all sides, cameramen, actors. So all the prices are like sky high for the inputs. So I don't think Hollywood can come back and make these good movies. It's going to be decentralized where costs are lower, where people have like a different risk profile, like myself. They're willing to gamble a little bit, with some money and reputation, and try to make good art that people actually watch.
Right.
That's it's insane. The idea of like, hey, in this day and age, how do you get 1 million people to watch a 60-minute video file?
Right. Yeah.
I have no idea, but I'm going to try.
I remember seeing Titanic when that first came out. That was like the first like long movie that I was exposed to in my lifetime. Of like, whoa, it was really long. It was a big deal that it was, I think, a little over 2 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
And they had an intermission. So like,
oh, they did.
Yeah, I wanted to double back when you were like, I think that's how long somebody can actually hold their before a bathroom break is needed. So that's exactly what happened. Like everybody got up, got out of their seats. It was the weirdest thing, but I remember it vividly. Like, what?
Yeah, I remember Gettysburg.
Yeah.
And that was like 4 hours. I listened to Ted Turner's autobiography on cassette, which he reads, and I'm pretty sure he produced that movie or executive produced it, and it was like a point of ego for him. He admits like movies were getting longer, and he was going to make the longest movie ever.
Yeah.
That's like 4 hours, right? But I remember as a kid, I went to that and Titanic thinking I was getting my money's worth.
Yeah.
So I think differently about my time now, but it was good back then.
That's great, man. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about your podcast, because I want people to go and check it out. I think it's a great podcast. I think you do a wonderful job of keeping your guests on the rails. There were many times where I was like, oh, and then this, and then I went to the grocery store. Like, I got 3 more questions I want to get to, Adam. And when I went back and re-listened to our episode, I was really impressed, man. You kept me on the straight and narrow, where for me, I'm likely to just like let my guest go. So I have a little bit of admiration in the in your discipline to like, let's stay on track here. I know you want to talk about popcorn, but we're talking about movies right now. So let's,
I appreciate that. Thank you. One of my like ethics when I started was format as foil. Foil is like a storytelling character term. From like mining days. You put like a piece of foil behind a stone, a gemstone or something, so you can see the true clarity.
Oh.
So yeah, format as foil.
Yeah.
I was like, the more the show's structured, the more the listeners gonna see, or the more the guest character is going to be revealed, which is the whole goal, to get to know you. So we go check out your Instagram and buy some of your art.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. And it's a really good we talked about this casually. I think that it's a really good look into Santa Fe, New Mexico. Like it's a great. It's kind of like a where the locals eat.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to go like to the best quote unquote restaurant. I want to go to your taco truck that you go to. And I feel like it's a good peek in the blinds of Santa Fe in that instance of like, I don't want to see like the top artists in Santa Fe in their field. I want to know where you go on Saturday nights to, you know, what art what exhibits are you going to see, or what is a different art form that's off the beaten path?
Yeah.
And I think your podcast does a really good job of that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Are you paying deference to your location, like in your show? I mean, I've listened to a bunch, but do you think it's emerging as a theme?
Sometimes I try to catch as much diversity as I can, and being forced during the pandemic to do a little more like Zoom interviews, that has broadened the bubble of like, well, I'm going to talk to this guy in Chicago this week. And it works out well because of the time difference. And, I'll be able to talk to him and hear about what's going on locally in Chicago. So what I'm trying to do is sort of broaden it, or get a little more global with it if I could.
Okay.
So that's kind of my aspiration.
Do you have demographic stats about like inside versus outside New Mexico listenership?
Yes, I
Yeah.
do get like a little monthly thing that's sent to me. And what I find is a lot of my listeners are sitting in traffic. They're like big metropolitan cities or where a lot of my listeners come from. I've got a lot in Denver, Austin. I started in Austin, so I've got big support base in Austin, Dallas, California. There's a lot of listeners there.
Neat.
So yeah, it's interesting to see. And then I'll get like, hey, you got a couple of listeners in Abu Dhabi. I'm like, what?
Wow.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. Are you on Libsyn? Because I use Libsyn. Can
Yeah.
I find this stuff on Libsyn?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. We'll talk shop about that.
Okay. Very cool.
Let's see. Where can people find this podcast, by the way?
Oh, iTunes is my favorite. If you have an iPhone, please use iTunes. Rate the show 5 stars. It's called Artist with Brian, with spelled out. Put it in quotes.
Yeah.
The whole phrase Artist with Brian. If you're looking in Spotify or Google Podcasts, I've noticed that people that can't find it, once they put it in quotes, it'll come up because it's still so small.
Yeah.
I don't think it's showing in search results unless you let them know. The quotes let them know that you want that exact character string, Artist with Brian.
Cool.
Yeah, you can get it. I don't know. Follow me on Instagram. I'm going to have a link tree up there soon.
Yeah, and I'll put a hyperlink in the show notes so people can just easily, if you're listening to the show, you can just easily click on your Instagram, and that'll help navigate people to where they need to go. Is Instagram the best way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Artist with Brian, with spelled out, all one word.
Cool. I can do that, man.
I'm not afraid of self-promoting.
Yeah.
I can't be humble about this.
That's good.
I like, one of my role models is P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a gem of Americana. Do you know the story? He had his like wild animal exhibit or whatever, and I think it was the Chicago World's Fair, and over the exit he put egress. So everybody thought that it was like a giant creature that they had never seen, so people would like rush through the exhibit and exit so that he could sell more tickets and get more people through.
Ooh.
So he like juiced his throughput rate
Nice.
by tricking his own customers.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like a master promoter.
That's fantastic.
I think he's the guy who said a fool is born every minute. And I'm not on that side of the fence, but
Yeah.
I mean, his life was beautiful. I just have to hand it to him.
Yeah, that's great.
Cause like Don King, there's all these stories. Like promoting, I feel like is 51% of it.
100%.
It's a little more important than the content, but just by a hair.
Yeah, I think a good business model. We sort of talked like shop on your podcast about business and marketing and promoting. I've heard before that you just take 20% of what you make as a business and put that right back into advertising, marketing, promoting. So like just just take that as a business owner and throw that right back out? Like, if
My plan with my first indie film is to put 100% of all revenue back into internet marketing, because that's my background, one of my backgrounds. I think like if I get my producers or investors to agree with that, there's a chance to grow something big, because it's really cheap to get views online if you know how.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I guess just sort of inserting one of my favorite thoughts, but I think that's the reason the movie industry is going to change is because television advertising is ultra expensive, doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be a new industry with people that understand internet marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
man. Absolutely. Let's I feel like we did a good job of covering podcast, what you're doing, your aspirations of where you want to be. Let's talk about you a little bit. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, cool, man. Let's get to know you. What is like the worst financial situation that you've ever been in?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, it was like right before I started as a busser. So I like grew up poor. I was rich by all measures. I mean, by my standards in my early 20s. I worked a desk job in oil trading. So I went poor, rich, and then to be poor again.
Yeah.
Like after having money and being like, how did I end up here? And then to start to realize it was your own damn fault.
Yeah.
That was the worst financial situation I've ever been in. I didn't need to become a busboy, but I was so attached to this idea of like selling my first script for scale plus 10,
Yeah.
which is just like $110,000. So your agents get paid and you still get scale, like the union agreement of the minimum for a future sale. So I was so attached to that. So I was like, yeah, I'll work for less than minimum wage and get tips from people that are getting tips that are like kind enough to share. Yeah, that was it. That was it. And I never want to be broke again. Like I understand what all these rappers are talking about.
Yeah, man. It's funny. You get in this rut where you're like, I'm going to make sure that I never ever do that again.
Yeah, it's really hard to come back from being broke. Mm-hmm. It makes, oh boy, just having a little bit of money is really important.
Certainly. Yeah, man. Certainly. What was 14-year-old Brian doing? Like, how did you, did you know that you wanted to get into like screenwriting or?
I knew that at 16. At 14, I was swimming way too much.
Swimming?
6 days a week, 3 hours a day.
Really?
Yeah, I was a competitive swimmer.
Nice.
14, I probably was a freshman in high school, overwhelmed by my coursework. I went to like a public magnet school. So yeah, underslept, underfed. Like it wasn't possible to eat enough calories to keep up with my swimming schedule. Yeah, 14 and 15 were like the low point of my adolescence because I was tired. I didn't yet see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But 16 is where I found, while I was in junior year literature class, found Emily Dickinson. Someone from my high school broke out as a screenwriter. Aaron Kruger with a movie called Arlington Road. So it's like, yeah, just the telltale story of someone from where I stood had made it. And I was like, yeah, I guess you can be a screenwriter.
Yeah.
And then I got scared out of it. I mean, I went to work for an oil company. I didn't start writing scripts in earnest till I was like 28.
Tell me about what it was like working for an oil company. I had a little
well, I worked at
experience
BP during Deepwater Horizon.
Ooh.
I was in a Chicago oil trading office, so none of us felt responsible at first. We were like, wow, what did exploration and production go do? Like, what are they doing? And we thought it was going to be fixed like in 48 hours, and then it was really kind of miserable to watch it drag on. I mean, what else? It was an international company, and like so that they could trade around the clock, we had an office in Singapore and an office in London, so that was really cool, being on conference calls with people that are doing what you do, but in those two locations.
Yeah.
It's just really cool.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. Sorry, I had a question loaded, but then I found another one that I was like, this goes a little more with what we're talking about. Has there ever been a time where writing has interfered with your like personal relationships?
Yeah. I actually So over this last 5 years, I found it really difficult to write while in a relationship. So I just didn't. I would squeeze in writing in between relationships. And then I did write my first ever script while dating somebody just before the pandemic ended. So I accomplished that. But yeah, absolutely. It just doesn't work because you got to go to bed early to wake up at 7. It's so regimented when you're writing a rough draft. Yeah. I mean, that's how I do it. I don't get blocked. It's a performance. It's like a sporting event. It's like doing the Tour de France or something. Every day is really hard. Yeah. But you got to do like 60 of them in a row. Yeah. To get something good.
Is there a creative hour where you're like, oh, it seems like between 11 and 12, like I get my best writing done?
Yeah, it's like 2 hours after I take my first sip of coffee. I can try to write before that kicks in, but that's when I'm really humming. Yeah. So like 2 to 6 hours. Yeah. After having coffee, those 4 hours are my best.
Nice. Very nice. What's the most offensive thing anybody's ever like said to you?
Oh, you mean as critique of my writing?
Either or. You can just take a personal story.
I'll just say recently because it's in my head, but someone said your views creep me out.
Really?
Yeah, woman. That was like how she let me go.
Your views creep me out.
Yeah, I was like, okay, so I don't even know what my views are.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what you think they are. Uh-huh. And that's a mean thing to say, that's something I think allegedly creeps you out. Like, I wish she had just said, like, I don't know. Yeah, something that was actually should be creepy. Yeah, so that was harsh.
Yeah, man.
Or just weird. But yeah, the worst criticism, that's just the most recent. I don't know, stuff like that. Yeah. Every now and then.
Yeah, when I was bartending, I used to hate it when people were like, "What's your real job?" And I'm like, "This is it, motherfucker. Yeah. This is how I pay my bills. I don't want to fucking be here, man."
Have you seen the movie Serpico?
No. Oh, yes.
There's this great scene in Serpico where Al Pacino and his girlfriend, or the girl he's dating, are at a dinner party and they're going around in circles. All the artists are saying but I'm really, I work at the grocery store, but I'm really a painter. And then Al Pacino says, I'm a cop and I work for the police department. Man, I flubbed that. But he's like taking that archetype of what do you really do, and he just has to repeat. He's like, I'm a cop and I work for the police department.
That's so great, man.
But yeah, it is weird. When you were a bartender, did you feel like that was your primary identity?
I felt like the general public thought that was my primary identity. They would, they would see me out and about and be like, "This guy's the best. He's the best bartender from here to Timbuktu." I don't know, like really butter my bread. I'm like, I don't care, honestly. Like I don't. You just showed that like you don't really know me. Like you don't really. This is like a fabricated relationship. But they'd be like put their arm around. They see me in public. They're like, this guy. Everybody wants to be friends with the bartender for obvious reasons.
Was it in Austin that you bartended?
Yeah, it was in Austin. But I don't know, man. It was like you're really showing that you don't know me if you're like, this guy's the best darn bartender that I've ever had. But I was like, that's not what I'm on path to do. Like, that's not my And talk about the podcast or something, or talk about me as an entertainer, or if you're really my friend or like you really care, then that's what you would highlight. Not saying like they didn't care about me at all. I just mean it was like this all is just a fake relationship. Like,
it helps you understand you were like going down. You were walking in the wrong direction.
Yeah. What's the hardest time that you've ever laughed? It doesn't have to be like the hardest time.
Oh my gosh. I mean, definitely when I was a kid. I definitely with my sister who's 2 years older than me, Bridget. I love you. But it was when me, and our god sister, so my godparents' daughter. So the three of us, I just remember we were over at their house and we would just crack up. We would do little plays and then just, laughing so hard that we couldn't breathe. I mean, everyone knows that feeling. It happens a lot when you're kids, but for some reason, like the three of us. Yeah.
I recently, I started watching, it was last night actually, season 2 of I Think You Should Leave. Huh. Have you ever seen that?
No, it's a good title though.
I know it is a good title, right? That's kind of like my comedy, I guess. I don't know. I was missing more in the sketch because I was laughing so hard. Like it
wow.
was, and
Yeah, I haven't laughed enough lately. I mean, but the pandemic, I'm not sure if I laughed genuinely ever.
yeah,
But I have had some genuine laughs since lockdowns ended. I'm looking forward to laughing more.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe you've laughed at a television show.
I know it's really
As
rare.
an adult, you're in good shape, man. You have a good spirit.
That's how I felt. I was like, I've cracked a smile. I'm like, huh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's funny. But that was the first time in a long time that I was like, I'm like writhing, like like laughing so hard that I'm like,
Oh, that's
oh,
wonderful. I want that. Wow.
it's good, man. I don't know why. I don't know and I don't know if this is going to mesh well with like everybody's got a different perspective on like that's funny to me or this is funny to me. So it can be very subjective, but for me, I don't know. I lost it. It was pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, I recommend it. Do you believe in ghosts at all?
Ghosts. I believe in a lot of supernatural stuff. Is a belief in ghosts important or significant? Like, I don't know. Tell me what you mean by ghost.
I guess it could be anything. Do you believe in like a representation of a ghost, like being? I believe that my grandma came and I saw her spirit down the stairs, or I feel a presence of like a spirit in this house, and or oh, don't go in that building, it's haunted. I get cold whenever I go through the. Some people have seen like no, I know because I've seen like a premonition of a man holding an axe or something like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be dark.
My favorite lens when I have a tough question about the human experience is an evolutionary biological lens. And I'm just thinking that the experience of like the hair on the back of your neck going up in a place, that sounds like it helps us survive to the point of reproduction. So I think that's a good trait.
Yeah.
Whether ghosts are real or not, I don't know, but I think that experience is real and it's probably very healthy. It's a fit, like a attribute of evolutionary fitness.
Yeah.
And then what I want to say is how insane is it that we can have relationships with people that are long dead by watching and hearing them on YouTube or on podcasts.
Yeah, man.
So I don't even know if ghosts matter anymore. Like there are living ghosts all over the internet.
Yeah, I've got a surplus of shows where people can, get to know me without having a single conversation about me. It's something that I think about from time to time where I'm like, huh, I'm out there, man.
We all have like avatars, I guess. Yeah, Facebook, I think in retrospect is going to be like a blip on the internet radar because it's mapping your real life relationships onto online, and that's why it boomed. But we're like back into the pseudonym persona of the internet again.
Yeah.
Like where we used to have like anonymous handles, but everything devolved into a lot of shit talk and flame wars. But I think we're getting back into our internet identity as an extension of ourselves. It's kind of ghost-like.
Yeah.
And I think it's healthier.
Yeah.
Than literally mapping your in-person connections.
Totally, man.
Yeah.
Totally. Do you remember a time in your life where somebody has like taken up for you? Like someone like stood up for.
Yeah, I mean, I know my brother has.
Yeah.
I was trying to think if I have, because it's family again. I mean, mad respect to my brother Patrick.
Yeah. How old?
He's 6 years older than me.
6 years older.
Yeah,
cool.
He's married. He's got 2 kids. So in a way, he's more than 6 years older than me. I guess that's why I say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he'll stand up for me for sure. Yeah, maybe. So when we were a kid, some guy in our neighborhood who was like my brother's age, ruptured our kickball with a pair of scissors and just kind of left it out there in the play area.
Yeah.
And yeah, my brother confronted him, and I felt real protected.
Yeah.
Because this kid was like a bad kid, the kid that didn't play with the neighborhood kids. So we were preyed upon.
Sure.
And yeah, I won't tell you how my brother confronted him because my brother's got a public reputation.
Okay.
But it was severe for 2 12-year-olds arguing over a 5-year-old's kickball.
Yeah, man.
So I felt very protected.
That's a good
moment.
brother, man.
Yeah.
That's a good brother. It sounds like you got a solid like family relationship as well.
We are very tight. Yeah, he's the oldest, I'm the youngest,
Nice.
and 2 sisters in between, all very tight.
Cool. Very cool. And we're at the point in the podcast where I like to step away from the podium, and if you've got like a TSA or a PSA, I'm sorry, if you've got a PSA that you want to tell the general public, or a promotion that you want to get out there, or something that you feel like we should have covered but we didn't, this is where I pass it over to you. And if you don't, then you just toss it right back and we'll keep trucking.
I might say Jesus saves. I got to come out. There's some poetry to that phrase. It doesn't have to be literal to you. Jesus saves. Yeah, God on top, family first, something like that.
Yeah.
But go listen to Artists with Brian. If you're an artist, hit me up on Instagram. Like if you want to be a part of it, because what I'm discovering is it's kind of a community that I'm building. The guests themselves, like inspire me, but I'm seeing. It's fun to see like the commonalities between people who actually want to come on the show. And I'm going to do like a mixer with the first, I think it's 27 guests after the first 3 seasons. We'll do a mixer.
Cool, man.
I just think it's a really interesting pool to be self-selected into. So if you're a fan of Adam's show, come on my show.
Yeah.
All you have to do is live in the area, make art of some type, and you can participate and you can promote yourself. We'll have a fun conversation and we'll see where Artists with Brian goes.
Yeah, man.
It's an experiment. Get on the ship.
Isn't it funny, like just talking shop podcaster to podcaster, isn't it funny how these relationships are born? Like I'll have somebody on the podcast and we're like tight afterwards. Like we went through some shit. We sat down for an hour and just like,
yeah,
just kind of sifted through it. And it creates this, it's a cool bond, man.
And I know you better than I know some of my acquaintances that I've spent tens of hours beside at work or something.
Right. Yeah. It's really funny, man. And I'll see people in public and they'll want to talk to me, like somebody that I've had on the podcast. And like, hey, what's up? They'll want to chit chat for a little bit. It's really cool, man. Speaking of this day and age that we're living in, where people's attention span maybe is shorter than it was in the past. Sitting down and talking to somebody for an extended amount of time, whether that's 10 minutes or an hour or beyond that, is pretty rare nowadays.
It's so fun. It's campfire stuff.
Yeah, man.
It's in our DNA, but geez, like when have we last done it? I don't know.
I know.
Like habitually, I think podcast hosts and guests are really lucky.
I concur.
Yeah.
Like there is something that feels good knowing next week I'm going to sit down with somebody and we're going to have a pretty solid conversation.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And you know, the listeners are here at the campfire with us.
Right.
It's just dislocated through time.
Right.
Which is really neat too. Hi, everybody.
Brian, last but not least, we always end the show with a poop story.
Oh yeah, it's good I forgot about this.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. Sometimes it's really off-putting, or I catch people off guard, and other people are like, "Oh, that's great! I came on here just to talk about this."
Oh, so you want me to go?
Yeah. Have you ever pooped your pants, or has?
Yeah. So the story I came half prepared to tell is I've shat my pants 3 times this year in the same circumstances. Probably about 3. Okay. I'm not going to admit to more than that, but I've been walking a lot as a way to cope with anxiety.
Yeah.
As a way to lose a little bit of the COVID weight. So I walk like on average 5 miles a day.
Good for you, man.
I came up with this new rule that I wouldn't drink coffee unless I was on my feet walking. So I didn't accumulate this like coffee jitters, just trapped in my 1-bedroom house. So I'll walk real far and I'm drinking coffee, which is like a natural laxative. And I'll just plan really poorly. Like I'll be a mile away from home and I'm like, I think I can go further. And then I walk a mile more out and now I'm 2 miles away from home. And I'm like, oh no.
It's like
so here's the weird thing. The reason it's happening, well, for one, I'm wearing like athletic shorts. So it's like really well insulated, like the tight underwear. I don't have to worry about any leaks. Like this is disgusting. But for some reason, I'm 34 years old. I'm not going to hold this in. I'm not going to like waddle home quickly. I'm just going to let it go. And I've done that like 3 times in the last 4 months or something.
Out in public somewhere?
Close to home. It usually happens like very much like the shit story you told on my show.
Yeah.
The closer you get to relief, the harder it becomes to handle.
Yes.
So like I've shat my pants on my block probably 2 of those times. The furthest I was out, I was still within a mile, but that's kind of miserable. You're walking home with like shit on your butt in your pants.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that's bad. Like what does this say about me that I'm not changing? I'm accepting that like once a month I shit my pants on my morning walks. That's bad, right?
I mean, it's not good.
Is it like serial killer?
I would say it's more of like, it's like a looking inward. Like you've sort of weighed out it's a higher level of living. You may be better than all of us.
Maybe.
You know, because you're like, whatever.
Well, imagine if we were just wearing loincloths or nothing. You could shit while you walk when you need to.
Right.
And it doesn't that seem fine? There's probably like something about our anatomy. Maybe it doesn't even get on your leg.
Yeah. Have you ever heard George Carlin's like his take on like you never see a guy running full blast shedding?
Oh, no. That sounds great.
And then it was before Jackass. What were those guys called? It was like CK something.
Before Jackass. I know the after Jackass guys.
So it was, and I think it was some intermixing, like some of the Jackass original crew they were in the OG crew, which I think it's called like CKY or something like that. It was just a bunch of skaters, but they took some laxatives and they're like, oh, well, if George Carlin says he's never seen that before, let's do it.
That's a good skit.
Yeah. And they run full blast. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube.
It's messy. It doesn't work like I thought.
It's not as messy as you would think, though.
Yeah.
Like it's a little 50-50. Like you're not getting off scot-free, but there's definitely some collateral damage.
Yeah.
And especially if it's like liquidous, maybe if it was a little more solid, but
yeah.
I digress. I think about this too much.
I like walking more than I hate cleaning shit out of my pants. Because all I would have to do is be like, no, I'm just going to walk a little bit away from home and then come back and wait till I need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I'm not patient enough to do that. I don't have time to do that, Adam.
What about like restaurants? Like it's hard to just walk into a restaurant.
Well,
so
I think the first time or two, maybe I could give myself a lot of credit here. Public restrooms weren't open.
I thought about that as the host of this show when I was like, what, really? Like there are no bathrooms, no water fountains or anything like that due to COVID.
Yeah.
And then I kind of rubbed my hands together and said, ooh, there's going to be some good shit stories coming out of COVID.
Yeah, exactly. But I think like the third time it happened, I walked past Violet Crown. Their bathrooms are open. And I'm like, I'm so close to home. That would be excessive. And then I shat my pants. I don't know, man. It's weird.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's not weird. That's human anatomy. That's how it goes. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Mm-hmm. Nice work. Good way to good. Let me put tip of the hat to you for challenging your body. You know your body's limitations.
Well, we're testing.
Right.
If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough.
That's right.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
It was good to meet all of you guys, Adam's listeners. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Of course, man. That's it for us. Play us out, Shitty Ukulele.